We are now going to listen to the welcome speech delivered by the President of Indonesian Society of Radiographers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sugianto.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Representative of Governor of Bali, Bapak Kepala Dinas Kesehatan, Vice President of ISRT, Dr. Nawapong Manapang, all presidents and delegates for ASEAN countries, speakers, the Committee of Pari Pusat, also the Committee of Provincial Committee, Pari Pengda, all audience and also sponsors, and all of the personnel come here and sit here. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to Allah Al-Mikti, and also thank you very much for the audience who come and visit here, all presidents who come and visit in Bali. Welcome to Bali, and I hope you all have a great time during visit in Bali. And thank you very much, and have a nice weekend also, maybe, and also have nice speech from nice speak from Nawapong, Mackenzie, also Dr. Samuel. Thank you very much. See you all. Thank you.
Thank you for Mr. Sugianto. Selanjutnya sambutan Kepala Dinas Kesehatan Provinsi Bali. Kepada Bapak Dr. Imade Suwarjaya MPH, dipersilakan.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I come here as a representative of the Governor of Bali. Firstly, I would like to inform that the Governor of Bali, Mr. Iwayan Koster, cannot come here to attend this very important conference. And he assigned me as the head of Health Office of Bali Province to come here to attend this opening ceremony and to deliver his speech. Allow me to read the Governors of Bali's speech. The Honorable all delegates, participants, organizing committee of the Congress, Om Swastiastu. May God bless us all. Good evening and best wishes to all of us. First of all, let us praise and thank the presence of merciful God, who has bestowed health and the opportunities all us can gather in this agenda and the joy and happiness we feel today. I also welcome to the island of the gods, to Bali, to all Congress participants who come from various regions in Indonesia, as well as from friendly countries. And also I say thanks for choosing Bali as the venue for this conference, which certainly strengthens Bali's image in the international community as a safe and appropriate place for organizing international activities. Hopefully, the nuances of Bali's beauty, peace, and natural spirituality provide vibration of strength and health to deliver inspiration for all participants, that they are able to attend the entire series of activities smoothly and formulate the best things that are good for improving the quality of health, the world community, especially radiological technology sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Minister of Health Decree number 375 of 2007, radiographers are health workers who are given the responsibility to carry out radiographic and imaging activities in rural and supporting health service units in order to achieve their duties both independently and in teams with other health personnel to provide health services the field of radiation to the general public in accordance with the duties and functions that are occupied by professional ethics. We realize that radiation safety and diagnostic imaging safety for patients is something that must be considered. Therefore, that the role of the radiographer is needed in the guarantee and quality control of radiology services in health services. However, radiology has a huge role in health services because it helps to establish the diagnostic due to basic of radiology is technology and science of diagnosis enforcement. Therefore, the role of radiology in cases related to the disease is increasingly clear. Ladies and gentlemen, while living in Bali, the guarantee of the stability of security and comfort is something maintained by all elements of Balinese community, including Indonesian National Army and Indonesian Police in Bali, for the conducive security and comfort for the Congress participants, while spending time enjoying the culture and beauty of Bali's natural world. I also invite all delegations to take time to enjoy Bali with the spiritual nuances of traditional Balinese life amidst the rapid development of global tourism, which is Hindu-inspired in spirit. Hopefully, Bali brings a deep impression for you and for the next coming back to Bali with relatives and friends in different activities. Hopefully, this good intentions get some blessing and guidance from the God Ide Sang Widiwasi. Thank you very much. Om Santi 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 Om.
Terima kasih kepada Bapak Kepala Dinas.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite the Vice President of ISRRC, Asia Australasia, to give the speech and opening the conference. Mr. Napapong Pongnapang, please, time is yours.
Good evening, the honorable guests, President Sugiyanto and the President from the society across the region. On behalf of the board management of the International Society of Radiographers and Radiological Technologists, ISRT, today I would like to congratulate the Indonesian Society of Radiographers for their success to host this Southeast Asia conference the 5th time. And we have witnessed that we have numbers of participants, radiographer friends, RT or radiological technologist friends coming here. We come here to celebrate. What do we celebrate here is the friendship of the ASEAN. We have the spirit of ASEAN Southeast Asian Association of Nations. Not only among us, we extend our good relationship across Asia and across too. So, last but not least, I would like to wish for the success of the conference, and I hope that you all will enjoy your time together here. You meet old friends, you make new friends, and we do things to improve the quality of care to our patients. Thank you very much.
We applaud Mr. Mapapong to stay on stage. And we also invited all the presidents to go on stage. The presidents of Indonesia, the presidents of Brunei, the presidents of Laos, the presidents of Philippines, the presidents of Cambodia, the presidents of Malaysia,
The President of Vietnam, the President of Thailand, the President of Singapore, the President of Myanmar,
Insignia Southeast Asian Procession Star. We invite as representative to President of Hong Kong Radiographer Association. We invite to Mr. Edward Wong.
Please give big applause for the all presidents.
Official opening of the fifth Southeast Asia Radiographers and Radiological Technologies Conference 2018. Kami mohon dengan hormat kepada Bapak Kepala Dinas selaku yang mewakili Bapak Gubernur Bali untuk dapat membuka acara. Pembukaan secara resmi SIRS 2018.
The next turn, Mr. Napapong, waiting to go. And the last, the Indonesian Society Radiographers, Mr. Sugianto. Kami persilahkan kepada Bapak Kepala Dinas dan seluruh Presiden untuk dapat menempati di tempat duduk kembali.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are you okay? Radiographer Indonesia. Oh no, I don't hear any spirit here. Once more. Radiographer Indonesia bersama sejahtera mendunia. Okay. We have the first lecture about interventional radiology at a glance by Dr. Samuel Tandio Nugroho. But first of all, I have to read the CV of Dr. Samuel Tandio Nugroho. Dr. Samuel Tandio Nugroho, specialist radiologist, consultant in interventional radiologist at Central Army Hospital RSPAD Gatot Subroto, Jakarta. Rumah Sakit Omni Medical Center in Pulau Mas, Jakarta, and also Rumah Sakit Awal Bros, Bekasi Barat. He completed doctoral studies at Atmajaya University in 2003 and also studied radiology specialist from University of Indonesia in 2012 and also fellowship in interventional radiology from Indonesian Society of International Intervention Radiology in 2013. Now he is member of Indonesian Doctor Society or ED, member of Indonesian Society of Radiology or PDSRI, and also member of Indonesian Society of Intervention Radiology, Perhimpunan Subspesialisasi Radiologi Intervensi Indonesia. Now I'm honored to call Dr. Samuel Tandio Nugroho. Please have a time. Good night, doctor. Okay, your time is 30 minutes to give your presentation, and then we direct to have 15 minutes to question and answer.
Good evening, all the honorable guests. Nice introduce from the committee. It's honorable for me to the first speaker at this meeting. So, I will share about the interventional radiology at a glance. So, the radiological technologist or radiographer could know what is interventional radiology. Even my fellow doctor still don't know what is interventional radiology? Okay, let us start. Yeah, this is, maybe you can see. First of all, welcome to Bali, all of delegates. Welcome to Indonesia, welcome to Bali. So, I think we have to let you know that Bali is in Indonesia, okay? So, you know Bali, but you don't know Indonesia. A lot of people do like that. The definition of interventional radiology is actually a subspecialty, a branch of radiology, which is using imaging modality, in which the radiographer include in radio imaging modality, yeah, such as X-ray, fluoroscopy, CT scan, ultrasound, MRI, for diagnosis and treatment. Not only diagnosis, we do treatment, yeah, for many conditions. This procedure is very effective. Treatment is being better than any traditional treatment. The advantage of this technique is include reduced risk, shorter hospital stay, and earlier return to work, lower cost, greater comfort, and improved health outcome. A little bit history about radiology. I think let us radiology. First, X-ray was discovered in 1895. So first time we do the angioplasty is 1964 from American radiologist Charles Dotter. Angioplasty. He almost got a Nobel Prize, but not got the Nobel Prize. Okay, and 1966, tumor embolization and vascular malformation is defined. And 1967, coronary angiography, PDA conclusion, gastrointestinal bleeding occlusion. And then we can see here in 1969, we start the stent insertion and now the cardiologists do the stent. By 1970, there is a percutaneous gallstone removal. This is in our hospital in Indonesia. In our hospital, we start at 1989. There is a first procedure is by our senior and our teacher, Dr. Swandi. This is in 1989, and now we have a Muri Award, and we have, this is a Museum of Record in Indonesia, Muri, and now we have interventional radiologists, 3 DSA unit, and radionuclear installation. This is our hospital, the Army Hospital, with the interventional 5 personnel, 2 general radiologists, 1 medical doctor, 7 nurse, and only 1 radiographer. That is very less. And then the facility, you can see here. This is the machine of this digital subtract angiography or CAT lab we know. Yeah, you see that. And what is the indication we call about DSA? Maybe we know DSA, the procedure most often we do in producing for cerebrovascular imaging. Yeah, do diagnostic to detect vascular abnormality. For therapeutic, to do procedure using medicine or instrumental, to do procedure using medicine or instrumental abnormal vascular. This is our room and hospital, we just pass it. Yeah, this is what we can do. Maybe you can see in DSA or interventional radiology, there is 2 big part, the vascular part and the non-vascular part. Usually in our hospital, we do the vascular part. That's we have a cerebrovascular center. What we can do is angiography, aneurysm coiling, stent, intraarterial heparin flushing, thrombolysis, selective chemotherapy, embolization, etc. There's a lot of things that we can do in interventional radiology. This is the next, okay. You can see the picture of arteriography, angiography, and venography. We do the angiography and we have arteriography and venography. On arteriography, on head, on cerebral vascular. On arteriography, we can do cerebral, aorta, renal, upper extremity, lower extremity. What we can do is to cure the stenosis, vascular malformation, aneurysm, and etc. And from the venography, we can do from upper extremity and lower extremity and deep vein thrombosis. Yeah, this is the interacting with the patient. You make a question, you asking about the history if needed, or body weight, or body height. Sometimes what we need, even the age. Yeah, that's what the radiographer do. This is the second, the most important job of the radiographer or radiology technician is taking image, not us. You guys, again, guys, okay guys, you who taking the image, yeah. Then you're observing safety procedure, sorry. Observing safety procedure, and then the maintaining the equipment, interacting with co-worker. This is the most important, I think. So you can ask about what kind of picture do you want to make, data, what part of body you will make a picture. That's why I myself call you are a partner. Yeah, partner in making a good picture to be interpreted by us to make a better diagnosis. That's our both of us job to do. So in IR, in interventional radiology, the role of radiology technology is, the main role is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Yeah, this is not too different from the radiologist or as a general. This is the IR. So the conclusion, the IR is technique tool which can be used to do minimal invasive procedure. Technology, advance of DSA or interventional radiology trigger development of science and new method for patient management. Patient management using DSA or interventional requires teamwork, yeah, with other discipline, include the radiographer and radiologist technology. This is the field why interventional radiology is headed by another specialty, because we can use oncology, fertility for myome, nephrology, the renal, cardiac, pain, this is interventional radiology did. And then the opportunities, all about technology and development and innovation in our opportunity, yeah, about the technology, development, and the innovation of the services. Okay, thank you. This is our building here, Cerebrovascular Center in our hospital. our hospital.
Applause, please.
Thank you.
Dr. Sam, I will open one session for question, content of 3 questions. But first of all, Radiographer Indonesia. Oke. Radiographer Indonesia bersama sejahtera mendunia. It look like everybody here have no spirit. Once again, Radiographer Indonesia. Okay, now feel free for everybody to give the question to Dr. Sam. Kalau tidak bisa bahasa Inggris, Dr. Sam akan menjawab dalam bahasa Indonesia. Jadi pertanyaan pun bisa dalam bahasa Indonesia. Boleh panitia dibantu? Saya buka pertanyaan. 3 penanya. Satu. 2 lagi. 2. Ya, 3. Oke, stop dulu. Dr. Sam, mohon maaf, 3 pertanyaan untuk dokter ya.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Faizun from Palembang. Karena dokter orang Indonesia, jadi saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja deh.
Okay.
Tadinya udah konsepnya bahasa Inggris nih dok, tapi katanya karena ini boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia, maka saya pakai bahasa Indonesia. Okay, thank you. We talk about embolization. Iya nggak jadi tadi. Jadi pertanyaan saya, apakah prosedur ini bisa dilakukan untuk berbagai macam organ? Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, seperti yang sudah ditayangkan tadi, untuk beberapa kasus malignansi, cancer, apakah prosedur embolisasi ini dapat benar-benar membunuh sel kanker? Kemudian yang ketiga, biasanya berapa lama sih setelah prosedur ini sel kanker itu betul-betul mati dan dibuktikan dengan pemeriksaan penunjang? Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang diberikan.
1 person, tapi pertanyaannya banyak banget ya dok ya. Oke dok, tapi enggak apa-apa, dokter silakan.
Ya, saya jawab bahasa Inggris, bahasa Indonesia.
Indonesia dok katanya.
Bahasa Indonesia. Oke. Pertanyaan pertama adalah, apakah ini bisa untuk berbagai organ? Itu ya. Jadi jawabannya, selama organ itu ada pembuluh darah, ada vaskuler, dan kita bisa masuk dengan menggunakan kateter, ya kita bisa terapi. Jadi prinsipnya itu kami, dokter interventional radiologi itu adalah tukang ledeng. Tukang ledeng. Ada selang, ya ada selangnya, ada airnya, ada pompanya, jantung. Jadi yang kita lakukan cuma 2 sebetulnya. Cuma 2, pekerjaan kami itu cuma 2. 1, menyumbat yang bocor. 2, memperlancar yang tidak lancar. Itu pekerjaan kami. Hanya 2. Selama ada pembuluh darah, selama ada vaskuler, kita bisa masuk dengan kateter atau mikrokateter, kita masuk ke sana. Begitu. Jadi kasusnya apa ya dok? Yang paling susah, organ seperti apa yang paling susah? Pankreas, kami pernah masuk. Skrotum, yang kecil, kita pernah masuk. Gitu. Selama masih ada vaskular, we can do the procedure as long as there is a vascular. Number 1. And number 2, about the cancer. Ya, the question about the cancer. Jadi pertanyaan ini, apakah betul-betul membunuh? Jawabannya tidak. Tidak. Kenapa? Karena pasien yang datang ke kami, ya, biasanya sudah dokter lain sudah give up. Another doctor give up, so the patient come to us. Jadi tujuan kita apa? Kadang-kadang kita tidak membunuh tujuannya, tapi kita memperlambat pertumbuhan, mempertahankan dan meningkatkan kualitas hidup dari si pasien. Kita bisa menghilangkan rasa sakitnya, rasa tidak nyamannya, dan terus terang sih kadang-kadang kita bisa memperpanjang usia. Jadi yang kadang-kadang divonis, udahlah kamu udah nggak bisa diapa-apain, akhirnya dia browsing cari sana ke sini ke kita, ya kita bisa bantu begitu. Jadi kalau tanya apakah betul-betul sembuh? Tidak. Karena yang datang ke kami ya biasa di luar negeri, in Malaysia, Singapore, maybe Hong Kong, the hepatoma ya SGC datang ke berobat, mereka pada ukuran 5 cm. Di Indonesia ukurannya sudah 2,5 kali lipat rata-rata, 12 cm, 14 cm gitu. Jadi ya oke, kita embolisasi dengan tujuan dia tidak bertambah besar atau dia mengalami nekrosis. Begitu. Jadi kalau menyembuhkan total tidak bisa. Tidak bisa kita menyembuhkan total untuk cancer ya. Menurut pertanyaan ketiga apa ya? Oh, sekarang evaluasi dari terapi, gitu kan sebetulnya pertanyaannya. Evaluation of the test procedure or test procedure ya, dari prosedur biasanya kita lakukan evaluasi setelah 3 kali prosedur. TACE sendiri, TACE atau intraarterial kemo itu kita lakukan 1 bulan 1 kali. Jadi sesudah 3 bulan kita akan evaluasi dengan CT scan atau MRI gitu. Cukup jelas? Oke.
Oke Pak Faizun, nanti kalau kurang puas dikuaskan di belakang ya Pak.
Ya.
Gantian penanya kedua silakan. Ya.
Makasih.
Boleh diperkenalkan dulu.
Makasih dok. Nama saya Ahmad Zailani dari Makassar, Rumah Sakit Universitas Hasanuddin. Ini yang saya mau tanyakan dok, di slide memunculkan kalimat di mana intervensi itu salah satunya mendiagnosa dan mentreatment. Yang saya mau tekankan di sini yang treatmentnya itu dok.
Ya.
Yang di pikiran saya ini kalau treatment itu berarti kita mengobati.
Ya.
Yang jadi pertanyaan saya dok, apakah ketika radiologi intervensi mentreatment seorang pasien, apakah dalam maaf kalau saya bilang bahasa kasarnya, tidak mengambil ahli lahan pekerjaan dari dokter spesialis itu, dokter spesialis saraf itu sendiri? Karena saya bertanya-tanya, treatment itu kan dilakukan sama dokter saraf, sedangkan kita sebagai radiolog cuma mendiagnosa saja dok. Makasih dok.
Ya, udah itu aja. Oke. Kita radiologi sebetulnya adalah clinical radiologist, ya, clinical radiologist. Jadi kami juga dokter, kami juga sekolah dokter. Jadi kita bisa mentreatment. Nah, spesialis radiologi yang melakukan diagnostik dan treatment ya cuma kami, interventional radiology, ya. Itu yang sebenarnya tidak diketahui, yang tidak diterima di Indonesia ini sebetulnya. Bagian lain menganggap bahwa kalau treatment itu bagian saya, bagian kami. Itu sebabnya tadi saya banyak bilang bahwa kami itu banyak dimusuhi. Karena kami bisa melakukan diagnostik, kami bisa melakukan terapi. Hal yang paling gampang, yang paling sering terjadi adalah pasien stroke. Pasien stroke, ya. Itu adalah lahannya orang neuro, orang bedah saraf. Mereka sendiri berdua ini berebut. Tapi kami dari radiologi sebetulnya, kami udah ada terlebih dahulu. Kami dari tahun 80-an ya, tadi dengan bos-bos saya, bos-bos kami itu, dari tahun 80 kami sudah melakukan prosedur ini. Sementara, sebetulnya ini kita lihat dari hitung-hitungan waktu ya, sementara dokter neuro, dokter bedah saraf, mereka baru 2-3 tahun terakhir melakukan. Sebetulnya kenapa mereka begitu? Karena kurang baca. Coba ke luar negeri, semua interventional radiologi itu melakukan treatment. Seperti prostat, kita melakukan embolisasi, hasilnya bagus, orang uro marah. Kok kamu ngambil kerjaan saya? Loh. Akhirnya yang ada sekarang adalah mereka yang belajar interventional radiology. Mereka baru belajar. Sementara kami, senior-senior kami sudah melakukan lebih dulu. Jadi, kami melakukan diagnostik, ya kita bikin gambar vaskulernya bagaimana. Kita melakukan terapi, ya dengan dua cara tadi, menambal atau memperlancar. Jadi, ya kita melakukan treatment. Itu namanya clinical radiology. Oke?
Oke, Mas. Itu kayaknya ranah hukum yang akan dipegang oleh para dokter, jadi kita garis besarnya seperti itu. Ya, pertanyaan ketiga dan mohon maaf dokter, ini pertanyaan terakhir ya dokter.
Iya.
Oke, pertanyaan ketiga silakan. Ya.
Terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Yang ingin saya tanyakan yaitu apa bahan dari yang digunakan untuk embolisasi tersebut safe untuk pemeriksaan MRI yang selanjutnya, dan berapa persen keberhasilan dari embolisasi tersebut? Terima kasih.
Oke, begini, embolisasi kita lakukan dengan menggunakan yang namanya embolan. Embolan itu banyak jenisnya, dari yang permanen dan non permanen, ya. Kemudian dari, kalau saya lebih senang membaginya dari substansinya. Jadi ada embolan cair, embolan partikel, kemudian beads itu seperti bola-bola kecil gitu ya, beads. Kemudian embolan logam atau coil. Ya, kalau selain logam aman untuk MRI. Untuk logam itu pun aman untuk MRI. Karena kenapa saya bisa bilang aman? Karena apa yang kami hadapi sehari-hari adalah MRI otak, MRI kepala. Kami biasa melakukan sekitar 300 sampai 400 MRI otak per bulan, bisa lebih malah. Dan itu ada juga pasien-pasien yang post embolisasi dan tidak menjadi masalah. Karena yang digunakan logamnya adalah safe untuk MRI. Gitu, jelas? Apalagi pertanyaannya ya? Ada 2 apa 1?
Mas, yang di belakang tadi yang bertanya, enough ya? Apa? Yang tadi di belakang sudah cukup kan 3 pertanyaan? Sudah dijawab Dokter Sam? Oke, clear ya? Oke, clear. Dokter Sam, thank you anyway.
Nambah lagi satu bisa? Satu yang terakhir.
Ya, oke.
Terima kasih sudah waktunya. Saya Ardi dari RSUD Provinsi NTB, dok.
Mana Mas?
Saya Ardianto dari RSUD Provinsi NTB. RSUD Provinsi NTB, Lombok.
Oh, Lombok, ya, oke.
Yang kemarin sempat gempa.
Iya.
Ya. Jadi gini dok, di tempat saya kan sudah ada MSCT, kita melakukan kerjaan angiografi. Kapan hari ada permintaan dari dokter minta limb angio. Jadi limpa. Ya. Saya bingung nggak bisa ngejelasin. Tadi tanya prosedurnya seperti apa, apakah bisa dilakukan limb angio. Itu mungkin saya mau nanya ke dokter, ini misalkan dikerjakan masuk ke ranahnya intervensi radiologi atau radiolog biasa yang mungkin ambil kursus tersendiri gitu ya. Karena tadi kan dijelasin untuk intervensi kan arteri sama vena aja ya. Sedangkan ini ada permintaan limb angio. Nah ini terus terang saya nggak bisa ngejelasin kemarin. Terima kasih dok.
Oke. Kalau memang dia diagnostik, awalnya adalah kita bermula dari diagnostik dulu. Kalau untuk diagnostik, CT angio itu cukup. Jadi bisa dilakukan CT angio saja. Tapi jika nanti memang berkembang untuk terapi, biasanya si dokter itu akan mengirim ke kita. Misalnya ada oklusi di arteri femoralis, nah nanti kita pasang stent. Nah, itu bagian intervensi. Tapi untuk diagnostik itu cukup untuk radiologi diagnostik yang mengerjakan CT angio, baik itu limb ataupun lengan, itu bisa dilakukan, termasuk aorta. Oke?
Oke ya.
Terima kasih.
Nanti bisa ngobrol kembali dengan Dr. Sam. Thank you anyway, Dr. Sam Tandio Nugroho. Please give applause to Dr. Sam Tandio Nugroho. Oke, host Mbak Ida and Mbak Sinta, please, it's your time to continue.
Baik, terima kasih Dr. Sam. Kami mohon Dr. Sam untuk tetap berada di stage. Kami mohon dengan hormat kepada Bapak Ketua Umum untuk dapat menyerahkan piagam sertifikat penghargaan. Kita beri tepuk tangan yang meriah kepada pembicara kita pertama malam ini. Mungkin rasanya kurang puas tadi yang bertanya ya, tapi nanti bisa bertanya lagi atau bisa menghubungi beliau. Kebenaran beliau malam ini juga masih ada, jadi kami persilahkan.
Okay, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is Mr. Napapong Napafan. The topic of the speaker is about role of radiographer and radiological technologies in MRI safety. Before the presentation, I will read the curriculum vitae of Mr. Napapong. Mr. Napapong, PhD, is the Vice President of ISSRT, International Society Radiographer and Radiological Technologies, Asia and Australasia. He worked at Department Radiological Technology, Faculty of Medical Technology, Mahidol University, Thailand. Her expertise is radiological imaging physics and technology, digital imaging, MRI, heart technology, management, and education. And this session, Mr. Napapong, it is your time, just 30 minutes for your presentation. And the next session is question and answer. Okay, time is yours, Mr. Napapong. Thank you.
All right, good evening. It's always my pleasure to come back to Indonesia. Some year I come here like 3 times, but this year is my first trip to Indonesia. The topic that I would like to present today will be about role of the profession as radiographers and radiological technologies in MRI safety. In this region, especially in ASEAN, we have quite a number of new regulation that involve with MRI safety. I know that in some country it's already in place as the regulation. I know Malaysia one and Thailand also have it. I'm sure Singapore would have it too. And not only the national legislation that passed some sort of regulation involving the MRI safety, the international accreditation, for example, the Joint Commission International, JCI, also set the requirement in this safety for MRI. So what I would like to discuss today, just to let you know a little bit about the organization, the ISRT. Actually, now we represent more than 500,000 radiographers worldwide, and you are part of us. And our mission is to improve the standard of delivery and practice of medical imaging and radiation therapy throughout the world by acting as the international liaison organization for medical radiation technology, and by promoting quality patient care, education, and research in the radiation medicine science. And we have the board number, we have the board number as shown, and we have the president, Donna Newman from the US, and I am the vice president taking care of this region, Asia and Australasia. The document that I would refer to, there are 2 documents today. The first one comes from the UK College of and Society of Radiographers, and with the new, not that new, but a couple years already, is the ACR, the American College of Radiology standard for the requirement for MRI safety. especially the ACR. If you do JCI, the Joint Commission, you have to refer to the ACR. I will discuss a little bit and show you some example what have I witnessed. So the content of the first section will be about the guidelines from the College and Society of Radiographers, and I will touch a bit about awareness in MRI safety, and of course, professional responsibility as technologist or radiographer. How would we interact with the patient, not only the quality of the image, but also the safety of the patient? How can we optimize the technical settings so that the patient is safe, all right? And give you some practical advice based on the College of Radiographers recommendation. See, these are my students, right? We learn MRI at Mahidol. Oh, sorry, I forgot. And these are my students. We learn about MRI at the hospital at home in Thailand. So to start, we have to define the areas of safety and responsibility within the MRI department. This is important. Well, the key issue is the standards are there. What if your department has been running, you install your MRI for like 5 years, 6 years already, and the standard came out after? What you're gonna do, you can't just knock out the wall, you can't just rearrange things. The thing is, you can modify in a way that it meets the requirement. I will let you know what's going on and what we can do. So first one from the UK College, they want to define the responsible person. The responsible person means a person that has day-to-day responsibility for MRI safety in the MRI center, and this person should have the training, proper training, and this person shall be delegated as responsible person by the chief executive or the general manager. So when you do the SOP or you do the guideline, the written document, you have to have the document who will be the responsible person. The major role of this person is that to ensure the adequate written safety procedure, adequate approval, work instruction, and emergency procedures. As we might have heard about MRI incidents in some country that end up someone die in an MRI room, then we don't want to have that, all right? And then there are some other persons like MRI safety advisors and the authorized person. Basically, the MRI advisor by UK standard, that can be technologists or radiographers, and that person may be a physicist, because this person shall be conversant with MRI safety issues, and this person shall be in contact with the safety committee and relevant professional bodies. Basically, like when the government authority come in and want to check how safe that your facility can offer to your client, this person will be the one who gives the answer for the questions. And next is the authorized question. Who is working with MRI? You have zoning here? Do you do zoning? Zone 1, 2, 3, 4? You have 4. I believe in this region we have zone 4. We lock the door, but we may not have zone 1, 2, and 3. And see how it goes. In one hospital, it costs them quite a lot of money to do just the glass door, just to block the room so that it can be zone 4. It costs like $50,000 or something to make that glass door. It's quite expensive. So the thing is, to make it safe, you need to clarify who are the authorized person, who can be in which zone, who can do what. So that can be, you can have a certified list of people in your department, like who can access to which area. I'm not going to read through the document, but I just give this to you as the document already on the conference material. Who are unauthorized person? So basically, in the scan room, it must be radiographers and patients. Sometimes we can have a nurse. Sometimes we can have an anesthesiologist to do like pediatric case. So it means people other than those, they are classified as unauthorized person. Who are they? A carer who escorts the patient. You won't let someone outside your department or someone who is not authorized to bring your patient in the scan room or the control area. When we talk about MR operator, legislation from one country to another is different. Some countries, MRI is not under radiographer, but most of the countries, MRI are under radiographer. So, number one, MR operator is an authorized person deemed to have sufficient experience. That's why we are talking about specialization. Right? When you talk about radiography education and training in this part of the world, we talk about 3 years education, 4 years education. You talk about only imaging track, therapeutic track, or you want to talk about combined. What can it be the standardization of the professional training in this region? So the answer is we do not have one. And we have to make one in the near future. So in our next conference in Bangkok for the ASEAN, we got a proposal from the Ministry of Health from the Kingdom of Thailand that we will set up this workshop to sort of set the standardization of the ASEAN radiographer education and training and see what kind of education benchmark that we can get from the consensus of the 10 countries. All right? And this MR operator is also a responsible person for safety of patients and also volunteers who sometimes we have volunteers to come in to deal with the research project. Now we look at each component of MRI. First we look at the static magnetic field. All right? So what happened is the control area needs to be labeled. Basically, the fast Gauss lines must be inside the scan room, right? Most of the time, this is the regulation. In my country, this is one of the regulations for MRI. Fast Gauss line or 0.5 millitesla line must be inside the room. And then this is called the control area, and this will incorporate the inner control area, the control room, and typically the preparation room for the patient, like the changing room. So ideally, the limit of fast Gauss line should be marked out on the floor as safety guide to staff. Any hospital mark the fast Gauss line on the floor? Oh, Singapore do? Oh, Indonesia you do, you're very good. In Thailand, only some hospitals, right? What about in UK standard? They talk not only control area, they talk about inner control area also. This is a bit different from the American standard. The inner control area is where the static magnetic field may exceed 3 millitesla. So basically you need to have a Gauss meter measurement around the magnet, and then you define the area that magnetic field strength is coming out, how much that can be in these specific areas. So here's how it looks like. We have control area over here, and inside we call inner control area. That's basically inside the magnetic room. All right? This is the UK standard. What about what we have known about bioeffect of static magnetic field? So far in the literature or the epidemiologic studies is not that known yet. We learned that sometimes the patient experience with some vertigo, nausea, but not that vomiting. But the field strength must be very, very high, above 4 Tesla. But during the scan that we use 1.5 and 3 Tesla, we have not seen any of these. Have you seen this? There was 2 incidents that a service guy got stuck. I think one was in India, got stuck inside MRI room, and he got crippled something because it took a long time. And then another person just passed away. So projectile and attractive forces is very important in the sense of static magnetic field. So that's why we have to have a zoning to make sure that non-authorized person will not be there. Unsafe materials will not be there. That's why we talk about labeling. Any of you use this label? Singapore, you use this label? Yeah, this is standard, right? So all the equipment must be labeled as MR non-safe, MR conditional, and MR safe. So this is clearly documented what kind of equipment that can be classified as. What about gradient? Anything about gradient? Alright? Bioeffect of gradient, most of the bioeffect of gradient is just mild sensation who just happened to be pregnant. So what I did was, okay, that nurse, because she's not routinely work in that IR room, so she doesn't have the OSL or the badge, right? So what I did was asking the hospital to give the batch result from the technologists who routinely work in there. So rule of thumb is pregnant lady can get the amount of radiation to entire of a pregnancy like 1 millisievert. So if it's less than that, then she can be happy. So by ACR standard, what can you do? Even you are pregnant, you can position the patient, you can scan, you can archive, you can inject the contrast, and you can even enter the MR room in response of emergency. That means there's really no restriction if you are pregnant as the technologist radiographer. So what to do? The thing, first, mandate that all MR installations follow 4 zones concept. If you want to build the hospital tomorrow, follow this 4 zones, all right? For existing non-compliant units, develop ways to meet the intent of the 4 zones concept. You can modify a little bit, like zone 1, 2 together, zone 3, 4 together, and you have to secure zone 4 from someone to come in without permission. And you need also to have standard warning signs, all right? One thing that is very important, gown all the patients. If you gown the patient, you can differentiate them from their relative, all right? And label all device, right? MR safe or unsafe. So what to do in terms of professional standards? All patients should be screened by 2 individuals, double screening, and screen everyone who is going into zone 4 of visitors, and qualified medical physicists and MR scientists, they must be screened also. Because normally physicists do not work full-time in your hospital, right? They come once a year to do the testing. And you need to use ferromagnetic metal detectors to supplement the screening procedures just to make sure that there's no metallic equipment coming along. And also you need to ensure that MR operations are staffed, covered by 2 persons at all times. This is important for your manager. They have to know what kind of staffing requirement that they would need. And then I think one of the very important things is you need to develop policies and procedures, and you need to do audit. So in conclusion of my talk today, radiographers have important roles in safety of the patient before, in screening, and during the procedures, all right? MRI hazard would include bioeffects from static magnetic field, gradient, and radio frequency. So we do have roles and responsibilities to ensure the safety of the patient under their practice. And last but not least, updated information regarding safety aspect of MRI procedure must be updated in your clinical setting to ensure that quality of care to patient undergoing exam is there. So thank you very much, and would like to show you what I have been enjoying in Bali.
Please give applause for Mr. Nabapong, and the next session is question and answer. For all participants, please don't be sleepy. Okay? Let us say our yells. Radiographer Indonesia bersama sejahtera mendunia. Repeat again. Radiographer Indonesia bersama sejahtera mendunia. Okay, for the next session, I will open for 3 questions, please. If you get okay. Please introduce yourself and tell your question. The committee can help. This one, okay. This one, once again. Okay, Mister. Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rahmat Setiawan. I'm radiographer from Awal Bros Batam Hospital. I interested about your presentation. I think this is a fundamental skill of our knowledge for radiographer to do MRI before we go to the next level of the MRI. So, the question is, how much the probably the occurrence of the burn of tissue? Because in our hospital we have 1.5 Tesla MRI. For example, we do lumbar spine MRI. Sometimes the patient have comfortable with the hand clamp. Actually, we positioning with the hand raise, but the patient comfortable with the hand clamp. We tell the patient if he feel hot, you must inform me by the active of the alert or no. But until the procedure done, he don't feel anything. And then, is this the 1.5 Tesla MRI capable of emitting enough RF energy to burn tissue? Okay, you got it?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. The case that I have seen is not limited to 3 Tesla. We have seen was come from 1.5. Especially, it's randomly happen. You can't be sure because the way that you position the patient, sometimes the electrical loop is there, sometimes it's not. It depends on like, if the patient is sick like this, or like this, and sick all the time. So it just depends. The thing is, you have to tell the patient what to do. You know what I have learned from the practice and also from my training? The patient only focus on what you said about stay still. Breathe in when I say, breathe out when I say. The patient wants to go through the procedures calmly to cooperate with you. And sometimes the patient do not know because they never experienced before what kind of heat that they would be alarmed, you know? So I think this is a tricky situation in terms of risk communication to the patient. And now we are not dealing with only radiation risk anymore, it's also the MRI risk. So to answer your question, 1.5 Tesla can happen, and I have seen this before in terms of tissue heating.
Good evening, sir. I'm Mahesh from India. Actually, for answering his question, see, actually the specific absorption rate is calculated on the basis of patient's weight and height. See, if you have problem in tissue burning, that means you have given incorrect words. Means either you gave weight is wrong or the height may be wrong. Otherwise, you have problem with coil. So ideally, the SIR calculation is based on patient's height and weight. So before taking you to the patient inside, you should check the patient weight and height. Another thing is, there is an option called first control mode and second control mode, and a normal mode. In normal mode means, in all machine is there normal mode, first control mode and second control mode. In first control mode means the technologists have to take utmost care when they are going for first control mode. That means more SIR deposition is given to the patient. In second control mode is often limited to research programs. It's not in routine clinical examination, it's not permitted. In research centers, second order level, it may be noticed in your machines. If you watch, you can see first order and second order. See, most of the times, routine scanning is happening in normal mode only. So if you give a correct weight and height, then normally this tissue heating won't happen. Another problem is, if you select an infant mode, that's for children, and you're giving an adult weight, then tissue heating will happen.
All right, thank you for your help.
Okay, the next question, please. Which one? Okay. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Hadi Sukanto from Jakarta. Sorry, I ask you what do you do for MR70 with patient with cochlear implant? Okay, thank you.
Can you help repeat the question?
Repeat, okay. For 70 patient with cochlear implant. Okay.
The cochlear implant,
Yeah,
right?
cochlear implant.
The thing is, if you don't know the model, normally there's a handbook of whatever implant is compatible or not compatible. Say, but in case you don't know, you don't do it. That's the rule.
My name is Winggayari Patra Gandhi. I'm from Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang. I would like to ask you about how to undergo in the condition in this era of the many hospitals in Indonesia have a change of orientation. They change to be a patient-friendly orientation. They can be decreased the failure of the safety of the MRIs. It's about we know about the zoning, and the third zoning is for the technician or the doctors. So many patients in Indonesia would like to make sure the families and in good condition. So they want to be safe the third zones. So the best reason to explain to the family of the patient. So because the MRI, they have a mindset about the MRI is not really have a great dangerous. So I would like to ask about the best reason to explain to the family. Thank you.
This is a good question. How can you best answer your demanding patient's relative? Because normally the relative should be sit in the waiting room outside, right? Not even enter the zone 2. Well, the relative can be with the patient in zone 2 in terms of like screening questions. So I think best is let the relative sit down with the patient when you do screening questions and explain to them. And then at the end, you'd say that after this zone, it's going to be a patient procedure related zone that only the patient and the doctors, you can say, can go in. It's like operating room that normally the relatives will not be in anyway. That's what my opinion. So I know it's very tricky, especially if we have demanding patients. Like in my country also, we have like private hospital where the patient can be more demanding compared to the public sector.
Okay. I think the time is enough. I hope the presentation or Mr. Napapong very useful for us. In the last session, please give applause again for Mr. Napapong.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Napapong. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Napapong. And would you like to please keep stay on the stage? And we invite President of Indonesian Society Radiographers, Mr. Sugianto. Would you like to give certificate and souvenirs to Mr. Napapong? And please give a big applause for our speaker. Thank you, Mr. Sugianto and Mr. Napapong.